Do let us know if it is working better now. Hello. There's an issue which you're facing with StreamYards. Do let us know if it is working better now.
Yeah, I think it's better now.
It's better now, yeah. No, there's some issue which you're facing with StreamYards. We'll just sort it out. I think we've been facing some slight issue.
Yeah, I think he's saying we're getting it's gotten better.
It's gone better now? We'll just sort it out. I think. Yeah, it's better now, I believe. Slight issue.
Yeah, I think he's saying
Yeah, it's better now. It's better now. Yeah, hello. Just confirm it on the chat if it's better. Uh, yeah, just put it on the chat if it's working or not. Weird. Never had this happen ever before, so I think it works fine for me from
is
here.
my voice coming well?
We talk.
Yeah, I think you're perfect now.
You're fine now.
Yeah, a little rocky start. You'd have to say like India's start
Yeah.
in the T20 series as well. But as we're saying that now, West Indies seems to be crumbling because Hetmai has also been dismissed by Yuzvendra Chahal. But it seemed like a flat pitch to start with, Abel, but then it's turned a lot, and the spinners have really come on well. Mukesh Kumar is just starting his over as we speak. But overall, Abel, what has gone wrong for India, I think, in many ways, is the youth. It's the fact that these players have never played together before, I feel, and that has really held them back. On the other hand, the West Indies T20 team is still a juggernaut. I know they've not done well when it comes to, I mean, they've not done well when it comes to the one day and the test format, but T20 is still something which is their forte. And so that's probably one thing that is going well for them. It's good to see West Indies play well. They've had a tough time as a cricketing team, but overall, yeah, I think India has a lot of issues that they have to work on.
They definitely have to work on a lot of issues. But to be very fair, even in this game, I know you've done well. But Kapil, I think you're talking about Indian superstars more than West Indies. If you're talking about West Indies, yeah, I mean, West Indies is a good T20 team. There's no doubt about it. And next year's World Cup is happening at their home, so they'd want to definitely prove a point because they've not really made it to any of these World Cup in the main rounds. Now, this is an opportunity for them to get direct qualification straight into the main round. That is the T20 World Cup, which is there in Florida and no, in US and West Indies. So this is an opportunity. But other than that, I have to be very honest. It's been a very, very rocky Indian team, to be very fair. I mean, you can't say with this kind of performance you can go into a T20 World Cup with. So there are a lot of things which have not gone India's way so far. And if India wins this match, I'm still disappointed with the batting, especially in the top three. I agree with you. He says, in my opinion, this is Samson's last series. I mean, where do you play Samson?
Yeah.
That's another question as
I
well.
mean, you know what you say about making a fish climb a tree. I think that's what's happening with Sanjay Samson right now. He never plays at anything below number 4 in an IPL team,
Yeah.
and here you are making him play at everything below 5. So that has been a major issue for me. Abel, I genuinely feel Sanju and Suryakumar Yadav to switch places on the batting card. Even today, Suryakumar coming in number 3. I think he's someone who's so Sanjay, I mean Suryakumar Yadav
But
someone
not
who
T20
can.
cricket at least.
I mean, for me, Suryakumar Yadav can do what Sanju Samson is required to do in the team better. If you want a Sanju to play well, you have to play him at his best position.
For me, Hardik Pandya should make sure Sanju Samson bats at least in top 4, not anywhere else
Yeah,
than
top
that.
4. But I mean, or otherwise, if you can't put Sanjay Samson in, then he shouldn't fit him in the team.
Yeah.
Batting him in number 5, number 6, just so you fit him into the lineup is
Yeah.
surprising for me because I genuinely don't know if that's the position for him to bat. Although having said that, I'm disappointed with Sanju today because he did come out, I would say, not at a wrong time. Today he came out earlier, or at least the kind of number that he's used to. So for him to have played 7 of 7, that was a disappointing one. So
that was.
I agree with Kapil here, but then again, are you giving him the best of opportunities to succeed? Are you giving him all the right conditions to succeed? Is the question again.
Yeah, but I think Sanju's case is very much similar to what's happening with Sky in one day format. Sanju hasn't really been a success in the T20 format as he's been in the one day format. For Sky, it's been the other way around. He's not been a success in the one day format, but he's a superstar in the T20 format at least.
Yeah.
But having said that, we have to be honest about how did Tilak score in the same pitch where others can't even bat. I would even talk about not Tilak. Tilak also did take 40 odd balls, but let's look at how Nicholas Puran batted today.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a clear case of what could have been on this kind of a pitch. But the question again goes back to the very fact that how India are going to do on a big day where India are going to bat first. Are they going to end up scoring 150 odd? It just takes one good innings to take India away from the game. And considering the World Cup is going to be in the same kind of conditions next year, and that are dangerous signs because this series is very important for India. And if India are going to, I know what's going to be today's result, but if India are going to go 2-0 down in the series by chance, then they're going to have a lot of alarm bells because India are going to have three more matches after this series against Afghanistan. I think they're a decent team, but not the best of teams to have a competitive game against. Then India go for IPL, then India join for the World Cup. So in this meanwhile, you've not had your main. I mean, I don't know what is the T20 format like. Who's your main captain? There is no announcement as to who's your T20 captain at this point. There is no confirmation on a lot of things. So I think firstly, what India needs to do is to sack Dravid as a coach. That's the first thing to do. For me, I'm very in with it. He's been poor as a coach. He's been atrocious as a coach, in my opinion. Regardless of him winning the World Cup or not, he has had no direction as a coach. He's been possibly one of the worst coaches in Indian history after Greg Chappell and his own captaincy in itself. So for me, Dravid needs to step out. Dravid needs to should be shown the door for Dravid and his entire coaching staff. In my personal opinion, rest can be figured out. Rest once you have a proper coaching staff with a direction in mind, I think then things will fall into place. Paris Mambre, Dravid, and the fielding coach, they should be sacked. That's the only way, regardless of what needs to be done. Dravid is good for under 19. Dravid is a good coach, but not a good manager.
Yeah, I think what's gone wrong for Rahul Dravid is the fact that, as a coach, I mean, I've said this so many times already on the live, but as a coach on the international stage, you don't really need to give a player anything more than, what role he should play. Now, I mean, that's easier said than done. That is granted for sure. It's not easy to coach at the international stage.
Yeah.
And that kind of slack can be cut for a player. I mean, for someone who's never coached before at such a high stakes game, I can understand why Dravid has struggled, but at this point in time, we've given him too much time. He's not been able to get that get the core right. He's made too much of experiments at some time, or when it was required, he's been too rigid, and when it has not been required, he's become way too flexible. And I think at this point in time, you're too close to the World Cup to be experimenting like this. Even the T20 World Cup, I know when it comes to time, you have a lot of time left, but not in terms of the matches, not in terms of the opportunities these players will get to really make a mark. And you have to consider the fact that this series, I know it's not as big an opponent as India would face in the World Cup, but you have to consider that this is where the World Cup is going to be held. It's going to be held here in West Indies. It's going to be held in USA as well. Not much difference between the two pitches. I mean, from what we saw in the MLC as well. What we are going to see most likely is similar kind of pitches. So India not being able to build an innings has been the biggest issue. They've stumbled and fallen and kind of crawled onto an innings. Even today didn't really seem like they were going at an express pace. They're talking about a new approach. They're talking about a new way to approach, but it's not translating on the pitch. So that's what really worries me.
I mean, I don't know why don't you try someone like a Yashasvi Jaiswal. I mean, this is the best opportunity to try someone like him who has had a good Caribbean series so far. I mean, he scored hundreds in the test format. He's been in good form. I mean, if you don't try, I mean, it's okay to rest Shubman Gill. I still don't think Shubman, I mean, he scored a lot of runs in IPL, but for me, I would still have a Yashasvi Jaiswal ahead of him or ahead of Ishan Kishan.
Ishan Kishan for sure. I think Ishan Kishan has been batting at the same strike rate that he bats at in the one-day format, in the T20 format as well. That's not going to work. And especially, on pitches like this, when you think about it, you really need to capitalize on the new ball, because the old ball, as we're seeing right now in this match, the West Indies has struggled against the old ball as well. So if your team is not able to get off to a good start against the new ball, then you're really going to struggle throughout to score runs in the second half of the T20 match. Because once the ball gets older, cutters come into place, you're not going to time the ball well. I think the only batsman today that timed the ball brilliantly was Nicholas Puran, which kind of is a testament to his skill as a batter, as a T20 batter. And everyone else did struggle. And even Tilak Verma, rather, as Kapil mentioned, Tilak Verma batted well, yes, but he took a lot of time. But then that also has to be given to the fact that he had no other support on the other end. It was just him for a long period. I think no one else chipped in. Even Ishan Kishan, who did, played 27 of 23, and that is not good enough in my opinion. I mean, as an opener with a new ball, with a fresh new ball, you have to be a little bit more proactive. If you don't take the attack against the opposition, then you will genuinely struggle. Suryakumar Yadav was run out today, so we genuinely don't know if he would have
I
gone on
mean,
to play.
Ishan Kishan's first double-digit score ahead of 25 in the last 15 innings.
Yeah,
Now, that in itself is a telling stat. You are carrying him as a wicketkeeper for, I don't know for what sake, and that's not a good thing to have, to be very fair. His T20 average is very poor. T20I average is very poor. And in one day cricket, he's done a decent job batting on top of the order. And I think for a lot of these T20 powerhouse players, which includes Rishabh Pant, Sanju Samson, Ishan Kishan, I think they're trying to take a lot of pressure in T20 format, trying to maybe impose themselves a lot more, which is not a good thing. I mean, maybe they've found their possibly their forte in another format because their kind of a game works a lot better in another format because they can take a slightly more time, and at the same time they might look a lot more aggressive in comparison with the format they're playing in. For example, if Ishan Kishan plays like this in Test, it's an aggressive innings, or even one day that's an aggressive innings.
yeah.
But meanwhile in T20 they can't afford to do it. And in T20 what they're trying to do is they're trying to go hell for leather from ball one, which is a good idea, but at the same time you're trying to impose yourself by losing your shape, by trying to champion authority, which is maybe not the right way to go about it. I mean, maybe that's why they have taken a leaf out of Surya Kumar Yadav or Nicholas Purin's book as to how they go about it. And that's one of the reasons why three players like Rishabh Pant, Sanju Samson, Ishan Kishan has been constant failures in the T20 format for India.
Absolutely. I also think Abel, for some reason, when it comes to the Indian team, it seems like a lot of players are struggling. It's something that is a very new phenomena. I think
Yeah.
post that, I think post Virat Kohli's era as a captain, I would say, is that's when I've really started noticing it. Because when Virat Kohli was a captain, when Dhoni was a captain, you would see a seamless transition between the IPL players and the international cricket.
Yeah.
But now what is genuinely happening is a player who's playing well in the IPL at a very good strike rate, he comes onto the Indian team and suddenly his strike rate drops from 150 to 120, which is very scary to really see. I mean, look at a list of players. You had KL Rahul, add Rishabh Pant to that list now. Ishan Kishan, I think a lot of Hardik Pandya has suddenly started slowing down a lot. So I genuinely don't understand now what is the issue here, because it seems to be a mental block.
Yeah.
It's something that we've seen in so many players have come through. Now, Tilak Verma, I genuinely hope he plays a lot quicker and a lot better. I mean, today's pitch again, I felt when Tilak Verma entered, when he came on to bat, it was a kind of position where he had to take his time. So that's where I want to see maybe if India is off on a better position. But at this point in time, top three, we're genuinely struggling. And in fact, and add to the fact that again in the one day format we have the conundrum of 4-5-6, which we had in 2019 as well. Indian team is not going through an easy phase of cricketing in its cricketing sport, at least.
Yeah, I agree with you because there's been a lot of confusion. That's where I come to the whole point of where Dravid has really failed as a coach in terms of really gathering a lot of thoughts as a coach, maybe helping him to work out a little more better. I mean, this is where India should have been more proactive in terms of what they should have done. I mean, especially in terms of who should be taking the call, tactically well known. I mean, you appointed Dravid, but I mean, you just appointed based on underlying credentials. You not even look at what he did in senior level cricket, which is IPL is the classic example of him failing as a coach on multiple occasions.
Yeah.
For Delhi Daredevils or Rajasthan Royals, he had failed as a coach very, very blatantly, and you saw some tactical blunders being made by Dravid in these setups, and hence you went on to appoint him, considering the Under 19 World Cup in 2018.
But
and
I think,
to be very honest, you had the best Under 19 team as well.
you'd also have to look at the fact table that T20 has never been his format. As a player, as a coach, he struggled in T20. Even that Under 19 World Cup or
I personally
India
think,
A that he did, most of
I
it
am
was
not going
test
to
in
pick out
one day.
format, but I think as a coaching tenure, Dravid has failed in all three formats, not
Yeah.
just T20. I mean, if you say test format, then we should have won the WTC, or we should have possibly done well in that last test match in England or one in South Africa. I mean,
Yeah.
if you look at all the overseas challenges Dravid has had, he's not won a single game.
Absolutely.
So maybe except for the Durban game where we won, Dravid's tenure has been one win and 4 losses in overseas soil. Let's not count West Indies into it, but Sena countries especially, we've had a very bad start. So
I think Abel, wherever we have faced a stiff opposition, an opposition which has not been ready to throw in its hat as easily as West Indies have, even Bangladesh, right? We did tend to struggle. We did make some questionable calls, some very questionable selections as well. So I think if there's one way to mark Rahul Dravid's coaching career, I would call it indecisive. He's not been a coach who's taken decisions and then stood by it. He's someone who is gone back on it a lot. And as a player, as a person, I really admire him a lot. But as a coach for the Indian team, he's genuinely not been one of our best.
I mean, I think he just followed his mate steps. Anil Kumble was another coach who I felt like did not make really good decisions both for Punjab Kings and India. And similarly here, Rahul Dravid, he's following his similar footsteps. And I think I'm not going to blame it to a particular state or region, but nonetheless,
Yeah. Good choice.
But nonetheless, being from that particular state at this point, I respect a lot of coaches. But having said all of this, it's time for India to really have a different approach in terms of coaching stuff. I'd say the foreign coach, yeah, exactly.
I think India's not hired a foreign coach ever since the
Gary
Chapel,
Kirsten. Ever since
the Kirsten, yeah.
ever since what was the Zimbabwean coach we had after the 2011 World Cup? We had a Zimbabwean coach. I forgot his name. Yeah, nonetheless,
But yeah, I think we have produced coaching talents from India for for some time. I think at this point in time, I don't really see a replacement in India for the Indian team. I think maybe I'll agree with Azul here. Let's try out someone who's a foreign coach for a while. There are a lot of good names available. I think Andy Flower would have been a great appointment for this Indian team because he has had experience in the IPL. He's had experience all around the world now. And I think I'll throw in one name. Yeah, it was Duncan Fletcher.
Yeah.
I think I'll throw in another name. I think I would love to see how Ashish Nehra does it. I don't want him thrown into the Lions Den yet so quickly, but maybe give him some coaching position in the lower ranks.
If is going to be your captain, I think you better suit him up, or you better match him up with a coach he's comfortable working with. And I think that's Ashish Nehra and Sandeep and all these guys, Amit, Ashish Rai and all these guys, together, maybe with Gary Kirsten as well. I don't think Gary Kirsten will be coming back to Indian team coach anymore, but then Ashish Nehra is definitely an option there. VVS Lakshman is the next person to take over for sure, but
I generally, again, I'm not that excited or impressed. I mean,
I have seen what I've seen of VVS Lakshman as a coach in senior level cricket, which is Sunrisers Hyderabad. He had done a phenomenal job from 2016 to 2021. They were there in the playoffs every single season. I mean, they won a championship in between that as well. So they've done a good job in terms of what VVS Lakshman.
But he's never been the head coach. If I'm not mistaken, he's just a batting coach.
So that's where I'm trying to come, right? Even from whatever I've seen of VVS Lakshman, even as an under 19 coach, I don't like going back to under 19 because when Dravid had done well there. But then we're talking about talent-wise, at least he looks like a better coach. He looks like a better manager, at least of people in comparison with what Dravid was. Yeah. I mean, of course, we talk about Dravid, the coach, but Dravid was never a good manager. If you go back to 2007 World Cup,
correct,
we had one of the biggest debacles in Indian cricket history under him. So, if you have to be very honest, if we are looking at a transition, we have to get rid of Dravid in 2023 World Cup, regardless of the result. We have to look past Rahul Dravid, and that's where
I think Mahela Jayawardene for me might not take over because he's already in charge of the MI cricketing.
Yeah, so I think it would be not from these franchise cricket. Yeah. So I thought it could be Andy Flower primarily because he was jobless and now he's got a job. But now he's been appointed. I personally think it's not going to be him. It's going to be Indian coach, and that's what Indians prefer. So it's going to be VVS Lakshman, in my opinion. It's a direct switch because it's often that we see that NCA director is appointed and then he becomes the next Indian coach because he's groomed as the Indian coach, then he takes over. That's it. I think West Indies have won the game.
I think they have done it. So it's 2-0 for West Indies. Another disappointing loss. There's a slight comeback by India in the middle when they got Hetmeyer, Holder and Puran out, but then it was inevitable. Just as like that, I think Akila, someone has been speaking something to Akila Hussain.
Very honest. I mean,
this West Indies team does looks like a very good unit. It's a T20 unit I'm talking about. You've lost 8 wickets and then you have Akila Hussain coming in.
MS as a coach. I mean, we'll come to that.
Yeah, but I think just talking about West Indies cricket as the next T20 World Cup, I think when they were in Australia, they struggled a little bit because Australian pitches didn't seem to suit their bowling and their batting, so as to speak. They're struggling to counter the bounce and extra bounce that the pitches are providing. But now I think in West Indies, since it is happening in West Indies, you can always consider them to be a threat because these are this team has got batting down till number 8, and I mean someone like what's his name? I forgot. Who's the guy who's on the non-strikers end right now?
Alzari Joseph.
Alzari Joseph or someone like Alzari Joseph. He can swing the bat. He can score a 6 or 2. So we'll have to see them. I mean, yeah, Kapil is right. They struggled. They have genuinely struggled for the T20 World. I mean, for any sort of international cricket for quite a while, and that's not just because of what happens on the pitch. It's also what's happening behind the curtains that's really put them under pressure. There's been issues with the players. Some players have suddenly cropped up and said, "I want to play for West Indies," and the
But
next
even
month
if
they're
you
not
look
available.
there, if you give West Indies the best opportunity to win any game, that's the T20 format.
Yeah.
This is their strong format. If you look at it from the last one decade, this has been the strong format. They won two T20 World Cups, no joke. And even if you say, if all of the stars click at one go, and they can be a formidable team because they've got those match winners starting from their first player. Johnson Charles can, Nicholas Puran can, Hetmeyer can. They all are individual match winners on their day. Brandon King is good enough. And maybe if Andre Russell on Silver Line wants to put their hands up and want to come play, which is quite unlikely at this point.
But that's my point, Abel, isn't it? Every month you'll see one West Indies player say, "Okay, I'm ready to play for West Indies." Then he gets into the team, he plays a series, and then he decides, "No, I rather go to franchisee." So that on and off flip that the players are doing is really hurting the team. They haven't had like. When was the last time you could name 11 players that will play for West Indies every single series? Now you genuinely are going to now if you tell me 11 players, I might have a different 11 and someone else might have a different 11 because that's because every series they've got a different squad. That kind of what do you say, uniformity of players in a squad. Now I can understand T20 format with the kind of pool of talent that West Indies has got. You will not have the same players every match, but every match or every series you don't even have the same squad of players, and that's not even injury. I mean, just consider the fact that Nicholas Puran did not play in the one-day series against India because he had commitments in MLC.
Yeah.
So this is something that is really hurting West Indies cricket at this point in time because the players are not staying consistently in the West Indies team. So these are the reasons why I feel they've struggled because they've not got uniformity of players.
I agree with you totally on that. But yeah, I mean, that's why I'll take this question up as to why IPL stars are struggling. I personally can't blame IPL stars particularly. It's been a poor letdown as a unit complete. All these stars are capable enough players. For example, Tilak Verma played well. I mean, he's an IPL
I think
star.
it's the management for me.
It's for me the management ultimately.
Because how many IPL players are telling me are going to fail in the T20 team? So many of these players have got very good talents. I
think it's the management. Ultimately, it comes down to Rahul Dravid and everybody. I mean, you blame Ravi Shastri as much as you wanted, but at this point, you have to say that Rahul Dravid and this coaching stuff, and I've been picking out his name so many times today, but then it's reached a saturation point for all of us Indians that there's no progression. There's only going back in terms of whatever we've seen. To be very honest, India has won 2007 World Cup. I mean, this format has never been our best format. Let's be very honest about it. Even under Hardik Pandya, we've not played the most exciting cricket, to be very fair.
Absolutely.
I mean, Hardik Pandya's Gujarat Titans is not the most exciting team to watch.
But I think for me, Abel, that's where I have to ask the question. How much is Hardik Pandya in control of the team as a captain? He's not been a designated captain of the T20 format yet. But when it comes to Gujarat Titans, he's in complete control. It's his team. But can you really say today that this is... I mean, look at the Indian team, right? Okay, look at some of the other teams. Like if you look at Australia, it's Pat Cummins' team when they play white ball format. I mean, when they play red ball, it is when you talk about the English team, it is Stokes' team. Now, if you look at successful teams, you know whose team it is. You knew that Dhoni's team was India. Virat's team was India. You knew that Eoin Morgan led the English team. You knew Alistair Cook led the English Test ball team, or Graeme Smith led the South African team. But now at this point in time, whose team is this? Is this Rohit's team? Is this Hardik's team? You never know. And we already are getting two more captains in the next two series. You're going to see in the Asian Games, Ruturaj Gaikwad take the captaincy, which is fair because you don't want to send your best squad in a game, which is not really that important in cricket circuit.
Yeah, because India
then again, absolutely fair. I understand that. And then again, you have Bumrah taking captaincy. So we've had so many players now owning up to this team. Who is really the boss here? Who is really the one player you can look at? I think that it's BCCI's team, and at this point in time, I think for me, Abel, Kapil, what's happening is it's been a series of in ping, safety pin, as we used to play as kids, or how we used to decide teams as a kid, like tu mere team mein aa, tu iske team mein khel. It's this is happening right now. This is the reason why I genuinely think India is struggling because
I mean you can't blame selectors as well. They pick the best team and send it to management, and management is supposed to pick the best 11. You don't know where to play which player. You just say for the sake of it, Sanju, you bat number 6, Tilak, you bat number 4, Surya, you bat number 3, Shan, you play open. That's not the way how it works. I think there's certainly a lot of hierarchical calls which needs to be made as to whose team is it and what is the best way to utilize the players. If you're not utilizing a Sanju Samson, what's the point of having him? Now
Absolutely.
that's the whole point, right? Like you're using Tilak Verma maybe at the right position, but is Tilak Verma better suited to play there, or maybe can he play as a finisher here? You mold him as a finisher. Now if you're gonna Sanju Samson, I don't think is a finisher. Hardik Pandya is a better finisher. And Tilak Verma can afford to play number 5 for this team. And Sanju Samson cannot play number 5.
Yeah.
So I think Sanju Samson can play number 3 and Surya can play number 4, which is better suited.
Exactly.
And Surya can play number 5 as
And
well
I
if
think
need be.
Tilak Verma has done a decent enough job for Mumbai Indians as a number 5 player. He
Yeah.
can bat at number 5, and then
Yeah.
then on you decide then on I think everything fits in. Hardik comes in, Aksar or Jadeja depending on the kind of level you're playing at.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, one good thing though for India in today's match, you'd have to say that Chahal bowled well, which is a good sign for us. I think
But Chahal has always balled well in T20 format. There's
Yeah.
no doubt about it.
But I think for some time we've had this question mark on him and his
He's
selection.
been the best player in IPL. He showed also
So,
what is the best.
It's good to see him translate that to the Indian team. So that's a good thing for India. I think towards the end we did pull things back a little bit. So that has to be given again credit to the ballers.
The Indian bowlers have done a good job.
Yeah.
But as a batting unit, I mean, that's been our biggest failure throughout in every tournament we've
And
played.
I think ever since 2019 or 2019 World Cup onwards is when I can really remember that the Indian bowling attack seemed a better suited or better suit of ours than the Indian batting. Traditionally, we've always been a batting team, but in the past 3-4 years, we've become a bowling team, and our batters have genuinely struggled to transition. Like you spoke about IPL stars. If you look at the IPL stars that have come out as bowlers, we've had better players.
And someone please explain me why is Mukesh Kumar starting every T20 game? But he's definitely not a T20 bowler. I mean, he's balled decently, but I still don't think he's your go-to player to go. I mean,
Yeah.
there are a lot of questionable selections throughout all 3 formats, and I think there should be a clear picture. Now what? Your players are going to come back for Asian games and the Asia Cup. That's the last thing what you have. At this point, maybe we can end the live and saying that we have so many questions, but not a lot of answers. Maybe at the end of this T20 series, we can see how things get better because the action shifts from here to Florida, if I'm not wrong. There's the last of the leg in the West Indies. So let's see if the countries and the continent slightly moves up. We can maybe see better lot of cricket from India because if you remember, India had played some really good games in Florida previously. One game that 244 odd chase, which happened in 2016, if I'm not wrong, was a classic game. If you guys remember, which happened in Florida in 2016, where KL Rahul scored the 100, and then you saw at the same time likes of MS Dhoni couldn't score the last 2 runs in the last ball. So yeah, so
I think we're gonna have one more match here in
Guyana?
Guyana, and then it is Lauderdale in Florida. So that's where we're going. But yeah, fair enough. Let's hope maybe next match at least India does better because the series. It would be heartbreaking if India loses the series, but I think more heartbreaking is the fact that for me, right, I have no issues when it comes to experiments. We've been trying to call out for experiments a long time. It's
I
too
don't mind India
late.
losing the series. I'm just not
I
happy with
think-
the fact in the way we've been playing the game.
I think if you're doing experiments as well, you need to do it to a certain goal where you need to try and understand which direction you want this particular action to go.
Yeah.
That long-term thought process is not there visible when it comes to the selection or when it comes to the experiments, quote unquote, that Rahul Dravid and his gang are doing.
Yeah.
First of all, I think it's time India declares a captain, a T20 captain. You either make that call, you have to make that call now. I mean, you shouldn't be waiting till the start of the World Cup to make that call. And I think the next few weeks is when you have the time to make the call because after that, the focus will shift to the One-Day World Cup and it will be long gone before you can actually declare a T20 captain.
Yeah.
So again, I think it's rightly pointed out, Chahal not bowling his full quota 4 overs. I was surprised Chahal started bowling his 3rd over in the 16th over of the match. He's already bowled.
I understand that you are looking at Rajasthan Royals operation where you're looking at Chahal as a death bowler, which works, which is a good idea. But then, what's the point of keeping him when you're in this kind of a game? Your best option was to bring Chahal 1 for an over back again and see because he was the best bowler, which got us back in the game. And not giving him over.
I think the reason why they didn't bring him in is because there were 2 left-handers, Nicholas Pooran and Hetmeyer. But he ended up coming in and taking the wicket of Hetmeyer. So surprising.
Now, what about him not bowling to the Akil Hussain and Alzarri Joseph?
Yeah. So I mean that's where I just feel sometimes I understand the lefty-righty thing that the what do you say the matchup that comes in, but sometimes you have to realize that good bowlers can bowl to both players. So he's a good enough bowler. He's also got a googly. It's not like he can't bowl to left-handers at all. And he was one of your best wicket-taking options. These are some really questionable decisions have been taken in the field. So I genuinely think the answer lies in a change of management. But now it's really too late. You can't change the management till T20 World Cup.
No, I think you can change right after 50 over World Cup because
Maybe, yeah.
his contract runs out at the end of 50 over World Cup. Now, whatever you have to do, you have to do it quite quickly. And I always see VVS Lakshman as an ex-Indian coach because he's been with this team. He has seen these players in NCA. So he's the only best possible. You can't appoint a new coach in management, but I want everybody to be sacked ASAP. That's the only way to go ahead. Right after the 50 over World Cup, regardless of the result. I'm repeating it again.
Yeah.
If Dravid wins the World Cup, I'm not going to sit here and say great coaching by Dravid. But regardless of the result, this is very toxic for Team India. Like 2007, a lot of miscommunication, like Tendulkar playing at number 4, random stuff. Similarly, Sanju Samson playing at number 6, no number 5, number 4 in one-day cricket. A lot of holes there here in Test cricket. So it's a chaotic team under a chaotic management, which needs to be answering a lot of questions. I think they've got the PR and media in their side because under Shastri and Kohli, you had a lot of people questioning them. Here, everybody, because Dravid is a coach, nobody's really questioning him because he's got the good boy figure. And nobody needs to really question him because they're like Shastri and Kohli lost 2 World Cups, whereas Dravid
But you would
lost
have
1.
to say, in both those World Cups, India were a powerhouse. Like 2019 World Cup, if not for maybe the English team, probably the second best team in that World Cup was Indian
I think
team.
if not for the weather and they too.
Yeah, I mean, you would have to say if you look at the overall
India
team,
finished first in the round robin.
I would have rated India better than New Zealand even after the World Cup ended. New Zealand were a great team. They played very good brand of cricket, but Indian team was, at least when it comes to the performances, to the sum.
Rohit Sharma 600s.
Yeah.
Bumrah picking up wickets. Chahal was the right.
Shami picking up wickets.
We had a good team. We defeated every team except England.
Yeah.
And
then unfortunately New Zealand, and that was something. In fact, all the matches if you look at all the matches that India played, even I think the World Cup that we played, we looked like a good team. It was just that on the day we didn't perform, and that was always a complaint that the fans had. That in the semis, in the finals, we did not turn up as characters. And
even if you look at that semis, it was not one-sided.
It was not.
It was a very close game of cricket which India lost. Okay, we had a poor run, then India fought back into that game. Things did not go. The weather was against your favor, whatever. But I have to say that India at least competed in those eras.
Yeah, you look at any other tournament, like the Champions Trophy, for instance. I think India was by far the best team. But then unfortunately, again, we couldn't make it onto the finals. The finals, that is.
Yeah, we're gonna come daily from tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, Kapil, we've had sort of an off season, you would have to say. Now onwards, I think now the cricketing action is really gonna kick up because the World Cup is coming. Football as well the season's going to start very quickly, so the off season is done.
Come and talk about some
holidays are done. So
so we're gonna come and talk about some interesting topics as well. So we're gonna come daily. We've been doing a lot of podcasts, like the recorded stuff.
Yeah.
So that's we've been releasing.
I mean, unfortunately for us as content creators, lives have not been promoted as much. So we've been trying a lot of recorded things, and that's the reason why it takes a little bit more longer for us to record those things because they're doing a bit more research. And,
Hardik is a very chill dude, which is not bad. I like Hardik as a captain. He's got a lot of things going his way as a captain at this point of stage in his career.
But I mean, Kapil,
I can't blame Hardik.
Would you really blame him as well because he's not really gotten the team yet?
Yeah, I think Hardik as a captain, I don't mind India losing these games if India is able to learn from it. I want to see how India bounces back after being thrown down.
Yeah,
this is a situation India are in. But I'm going to tell you also this: in World Cups, you don't get second chances or third chances. In bilaterals, you have enough chance. Okay, you get come back again. Even if you lose the series, what's going to really happen?
Yeah.
So if it was supposed to be World Cup or important must-win game against West Indies in the World Cup, and you lose that game, we're going to say in Crib about the same things again. We lost in a big game. So I think the mentality should be to win every game, not to lose every game. It should be like we should be on the pedal from the first game.
Yeah.
We can't afford to lose any game, and that's what happened in 2021 T20 World Cup. We lost 2 games, and we were chasing our way back. So we can't afford to lose the pedal. We have to be on it from the very first go. We have to be ruthless in terms of our performance. Every game we should look to win it, and that's when the only way you can create the mentality. If you look at Australia in 2000, the whole era of 2000, 2010, they were all ruthless in every match they played. They never took any game as an experiment. England from 2015 has been a very ruthless team in every game they play. They might lose one odd game here, but they don't seem like they're going to come back into the season. They lose maybe the 4th or 3rd game, but the very first game or the second game, that's where you make the impression. You can't be in that like, okay, we'll lose the first match, we'll come back. That's been India's worst mindset. We're good comebackers. We've done it in Australia.
But then one match can be too late when it comes to these big tournaments. So that's where, when it comes to big tournaments, it's not the skill, it's not the talent that comes in, it's the character that comes out. And
Yeah.
Indian team has failed many occasions to show that
Yeah.
character.
That's about it from us for today, and
Yeah.
we'll be back tomorrow, hopefully. And we'll talk about a lot of other topics as well because Indian team is getting the World Cup is around the corner, and other teams are also preparing themselves. Pakistan have confirmed their participation in the World Cup as they've got green signal from the government. So these things are confirmed. And that's about it. Thank you for coming and joining the live once again. Do not forget to check out our premium feature on Boomer 11. And if you're new here, do check out that and also share and subscribe to our channel so we can keep bringing more of this exciting content in the times to come. Thank you and have a good time, all of you.